Melanie, we have no sound. We have no sound from you.
Sorry, Rick, forgot to unmute.
All right, you got us now?
All good.
Perfect. Ooh, I get a good echo too. Totally need to hear myself twice.
You go ahead, I'm gonna.
Hang on, more tech savvy people than me are gonna try to fix that. All right, so I take a motion to open the public hearing on the automobile graveyard and/or junkyard permits.
So be it.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, Ricky?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 3 yeses. All right, the first one on the agenda is. That's bad.
I believe it's Francis Pratt.
It is, I'm just hanging on here because I'm hearing myself again and again. Maybe he's not more tech savvy.
I'm not claiming to be.
All right, well, I'll let him work on this. So first up, we have the permit for Francis Frappier, map 10, lot 22D, and it's Francis J. Frappier Jr., 242 Oakland Road. Take a motion to open this one.
I'll make that motion.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, Barbara?
Yes.
Vicky?
Yes.
All right, open for discussion. So my understanding is that acting CEO did go over and take a look and did a little bit of, and there were no issues to be found. So high five. We love those reports. All right, does anybody have any questions?
Hey there.
What's going on?
Well, I'm just clicking into the select board meeting.
You're on, we're hearing you.
Okey-dokey, talk to you later. Bye.
Oh. All right, so does anybody have any questions for the Frappiers? All right, seeing none. We'll move on to the second application, and that is for Raymond Frappier, map 10, lot 22C, 32 Dustin Drive. Take a motion to open that one.
So be it.
All right, moved, seconded. All those in favor, Ricky?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Melanie. All right, that one is open for us. And this is kind of like ditto, correct? No issues anywhere, everything's fabulous. Is that my understanding, Anthony?
Yes, that's.
That's so good. Like, you should just say you're right. It's not good. All right, does anyone have any questions on Raymond Frappier's application? All right, seeing none. All right, I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Yeah, you're up on all that tonight, Ricky. All right, all in favor, Ricky? Barbara?
Yes.
All right, 3 yeses. Take a motion to open the select board meeting.
So moved.
So be it.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Yes.
Barbara, Ricky, Melanie. All right, 1, 2, 3. All right, so I will take a motion to approve the application of Francis Frappier Jr.'s
So be it.
Your junkyard permit. Moved and a second.
Second.
Lead it. All right, if there's no further discussion, we'll take a vote. Ricky,
Yes.
Barbara,
Yes.
and Melanie, 3 yes on that one. All right, and then I will I'll make the motion that we approve the application for Raymond Frappier, map lot 22C, 32 Dustin Drive.
Make that motion.
All right, moved and seconded. All right, there's further discussion. Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
3 yeses. Guys, good to roll? You're welcome to hang. We're so fun. All right, so the first part of the select board meeting is public comment. So
Thank you.
You don't want to hang out?
I'm gonna go to this. I've been in the rabbit all day. I am totally me.
All
Really.
right.
I know I am.
I'm just teasing you.
They said we had to be here, so.
We appreciate it.
Have a nice night.
Thank you, you as well. All right, so the first part is public comment, and that's where it's your chance to speak. So if there's anything that you'd like to bring before the select board that may not be covered on this evening's agenda, now is your chance. Once. Twice, seeing none, we'll move right along. Old business. First up on old business is the approval of the September 21, 2021 meeting minutes. I'll take a motion. Moved and
Second.
seconded. Okay. That is open for discussion.
Looked okay to me. No comments.
Did you see anything, Rhett?
No.
All right, I make a motion that we approve the select board meeting minutes from September 21, 2021.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, Barbara?
yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
3, 4, 1 absent. All right, next up, we have approval of the September 28, 2021 select board meeting minutes. I'll take a motion.
So be it.
And a second.
Second,
All right, it's open for discussion. Anyone see anything on that one? All right, seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Right, 3 yeses, 1 absent. Those are approved. All right, discussion and consideration of measures to slow traffic in the village. I'll take a motion to open that item.
so moved.
Tag, you're it, Ricky.
I'll second it.
Okay. All right, all those in favor?
Yes.
Ricky, Barbara, Melanie. All right, that is open for discussion. So at the last meeting, one of the things that we had requested was that we have the speed sign down in the village and it's able to collect data. And we had a state trooper, wasn't it, who said, I might as well, is the state trooper, is it a sheriff?
State trooper.
State trooper, who had kind of said sometimes if you're there and people going by that you presume that they're going faster than they are. And so we requested the data before the board moved forward with doing anything to help to calm the speed in the village. And according to the data, people are not flying through the village as we were told. So are you gonna be able to?
Mhm.
Okay. I'll let you kind of lead that because you,
So the data showed that the vast majority of motorists were traveling less than 30 miles an hour. And of course, the speed limit there is 25. So, it was a very slim minority that were driving more than 30 miles an hour. And interestingly to me, one of the breakdowns that sign does provide is what the highest average or what the average speed is depending upon the hour of the day. And that sign was down there for 2 weeks. The highest average speed at any time during the day happened at the 5 a.m. hour. And the speed was only 28.5 miles per hour. So only at 3.5 miles over the limit at a time when there's very little traffic in the village. Now, when you look at the data between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m., there was no average speed that was above 25 miles per hour. And so it was Lieutenant Madore who said, we typically perceive traffic as it's going by to be faster than what it actually is. And he said even he's guilty of that, as experienced as he is at. And this data does seem to indicate that's the case.
I guess I would question the 26 to 30, putting that in the acceptable speed limit range. I mean, the speed limit is 25, and I realize the tendency is to go over 25. But if you're, if we're looking at these numbers, and I mean, we didn't have an actual graph, so it's hard to tell. I just kind of eyeball what the percentage is. But if we look at what the percentage is of 26 to 30, that's close to 20% of the entire sampling. I mean, that's that's pretty significant, even if it's at 5 o'clock in the morning or 6 o'clock in the morning. And I would still like to see us do something to recognize the fact that that people do tend to go 30 instead of 25. So, I mean, I would like to make a motion that we consider purchasing 4 pedestrian crossing signs and the reflective borders from the road maintenance budget.
How many of the reflective borders?
Well, we could get 3 because we would also need to have a new 25 mile. We had also talked about putting in a new 25 mile an hour speed limit sign for people coming off the West Road and going through the village just to reinforce. And Anthony said there might be one. You probably haven't had a chance to
I
talk.
haven't had a chance to talk with Jason, but we do keep a certain amount of signs in stock, and it may be that we have one of those in stock right now.
Yeah. And even if it's a perception problem and it's very hard to tell what's 25 and what's 30, I think that the number of people who have expressed concern in the village, I think we need to make a statement that, we're willing to do what we can. More than just every time I go through the village now, I go at 25 and somebody's on my tail the whole way through and they're not happy with me, but I mean, I think, we can all set an example that way, but I also think putting in some of the pedestrian signs and putting the reflective borders, so we could have 3 of the reflective borders, one at the Hello Good Pie, one in the village, and if we're allowed, if Rome would let us put one on the 25 mile an hour sign coming, that's as you come towards the dam, there's one there, to put one there. And that would be a total of $15.55. If we wanted to purchase an extra pedestrian crossing sign at $280, so we have 5 signs, since one or more are bound to get smashed, then we would be up to $18.35.
Bruce?
There is a 25 mile an hour sign. You come off West Road and head down into the lakes already. It's the other way. There's no sign.
So you're saying it so there is one as you're heading north, sort of near Hewell Road,
Yes.
but there's not one that sort of corresponds with that on the other side of the road.
And my other question is are you going to install pedestrian signs now or wait and do it in the spring?
Spring.
Okay. So should that be, instead of you guys approving that now, should that go as a article for town meeting to be voted on for them? Where it's next year budgetary thing, or no? I guess that's my next question.
It could just be included in the budget, so it would have to be a special line item.
But just the biggest thing where it is, the things I've been hearing around town, the talk is about it is a DOT road, not a town road. So I think where it's a DOT road, I think that it should go to the town to vote on that. Let the rest of the town decide. I mean, that's totally up to you guys as a board, but that's just, it's a DOT road, not a town.
I checked in the warrant from last year for roads. It just specifies public works, general road maintenance.
Yeah, but if you dissect that more, that means town road, DOT roads.
So are the signs that are there now DOT signs?
Correct.
Yes.
I mean, I think a lot of the stuff that we're doing, I'm not against putting the pedestrian walkways in. I'm totally not against that at all. When it comes to the signage, I'm a little bit woozy on that. I think we should wait for the study for DOT before we as a town decide that we're gonna step on DOT's toes and go put signs up that the deal, but signs that the DOT should be putting up, not us. But I know the crosswalk stuff that has to be done by us because it's a village, so that stuff has to be done by us. And I don't, and that does bother me. That will slow people down a little bit more, but just be aware that when big trucks go through, they're going to clean them signs. I mean, them crosses. It's gonna happen.
That's why we're advised to get extras.
Yes.
So,
And it's
you know,
gonna
maybe
happen.
we'd want to buy 6 to start with. If we have 4 crosswalks, maybe we'd want to buy 6.
Because I can tell you when it's busy down that village, you know, I drive fire truck and I can tell you, I have to be in almost in the middle of the road to get down through when there's vehicles on both sides.
So is this something we can act on now or
Well, there's a motion on the floor. There's no
Hasn't been
second on it
seconded.
yet. No.
hasn't been seconded?
So your suggestion would be to purchase 6 of those and then the
Right,
bicycle
I'll
coalition.
amend my motion to purchase 6 of the pedestrian right-of-way signs.
And then would that be just the pedestrian things and not the additional $300 per crosswalk that the bicycle coalition?
Right, for the, I'm not convinced that we need the traffic calming, those gateways. So if we just want the 6 at $280, then I think that's $1,680, $1,680.
And still reflective borders or no reflective borders?
Well, there seems, I mean, I would go for the reflective borders, but, and, you know, pending approval from DOT. If they're DOT signs, can we get permission from DOT to put the reflective borders on those 3 signs? Skip the one in Rome. And if we have 3 in the village, one at Halogapi, one as you come off the west road a little further up, and then we wouldn't have a new one coming south through the village.
My biggest concern is as long as the town doesn't take liability and once they put them borders on it, the town owns them signs, has to maintain them, and if they get graffiti or anything like that, I can do in other towns.
I think we can ask Anthony to check with DOT.
And just carry over it like we did on the West Road. With the graffiti, put a light on it.
Oh, so that road here,
Not on the side. Yes.
On the pavement.
Yes.
Melanie, did I get a second on that?
Not a second yet, Ricky.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any other thoughts on this? Now, DOT had said that we could put the LED signs, correct?
They did, so, and I think what they were talking about is replacing the 2 25-mile-per-hour signs that are coming into the village with LED signs
Right. So they were okay with
At our
that.
expense.
at our expense.
Right, so I can't imagine that they would be upset if we went to put a reflective border around.
They've been great to work with as far as I'm concerned. So, but that said, we obviously want to run it by them just to make sure that they're kosher with everything, because we don't want to do something and then be asked to undo it by mistake.
And I guess, I mean, my thought, madam, is whether or not they're gonna get stolen. The pedestrian ones in the middle of the road.
Well, I'm not sure. Do you know, Bruce, how they're secured? I don't know if they're bolted into the ground or if they're just on a really heavy base.
I think they're like on a water base.
Is it a water? Because I was thinking it
Or
was a
sand.
Or
sand base,
sand.
I was thinking
right?
it was
I think it's
sand, yeah.
sand.
So. Heavy to move, but not impossible.
Yeah, I mean, Bill Mitchell had one of his little turtle signs stolen and the other one graffiti, so.
Well, and everybody had
It is a
those
risk.
those little people signs, like the little people, and those kept going missing. And so if you can't anchor them down, they're probably gonna walk away.
And you know, if they did, that's one of the reasons why the town has liability insurance.
Yeah, we put a claim in on $2,000 worth of stuff.
For 2,000, if it were 200, maybe not. depending on what the impact on our premium would be, but if it was 2,000, I would think so.
They'd have to take them all in the signs for that, though.
Yeah.
All right, so Barbara, will you reiterate your motion?
That the town purchase 6 pedestrian crossing signs at $280, each for $1,680. And install reflective borders on 3 20-mile-an-hour signs pending approval from the state DOT for an additional $435.
So a total of 2115.
Yes.
I'll second that. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky, what's your pleasure?
Same as it was last meeting, no. We're using town money for that, and you shouldn't be doing that. You're gonna open a can of worms, and you're gonna be putting this stuff all over town. There's a lot of roads in Belgrade that people are going way over the speed limit, and they're gonna request the same thing to slow them down. So my answer is no.
Okay, Barbara?
Yes.
Melanie, yes. So 2 yeses, 1 no, it's dead.
Looks like Dan's on here.
Well, Dan did text me, and he said that he is on his way back from a state legislative event, and said that he's joining with Zoom audio only to listen in, not voting.
Okay. Will you text him and ask if he wants to weigh in on this, and if so, we can table it? Or,
Yes, I will.
It's already voted.
but then we didn't realize Dan was in. I would have grabbed a vote from Dan.
Oh,
Yeah.
he is.
Yeah, he's in on the Zoom.
Um,
So technically I called
Okay.
it early.
So assuming he has hands free, maybe we'll hear back from him here in a second.
He's on here now.
He is, Rick, but I think he's driving.
Yeah, he's driving right now, Rick, and said he was tuning in via Zoom just to listen.
Give him 30 seconds or so. See if he wants to vote. If not, then. If he does, we'll table it. If he doesn't, then. we'll just go.
So we want to come back to this.
No response, okay. Oh, what's the board's pleasure?
I didn't hear you.
Do we want to table it and see if Dan wants to weigh in when he gets here? Want to call? We could have a 2-2 or a 3-1.
Whatever you want to do. You gotta just open the can of worms.
Yeah, he said he wasn't voting, so.
All right. 2 for, 1 against, that item is dead. All right, moving on, we have, next up is a discussion with Kennebunk Valley Council of Government Services. Take a motion to open up.
So moved.
And a second.
Yep.
And that item is open for discussion. All right, so Anthony, just so you don't have to read everything at
Oh,
this time.
that would be just fine.
Okay, so at our last board meeting, there was a discussion on if KV cog assisted the town with our next ordinance that we need some help with, the solar, wind, and cell tower. and that they had already put a lot of time in the subdivision ordinance, and they felt like they would be willing to assist us, but it was taking a lot of time, and maybe we should pay an additional fee for that assistance. So I did ask if we could get an overview COG does for the town, and roughly how many hours of service that we get, and if we hadn't already paid enough to have that assistance. So I wanted a little bit more of a breakdown on it, and I think that we did receive that. So following the September 21 Select Board meeting, Anthony spoke with
Ula.
Ula.
Mhm.
How do I say the last name?
Amundsen.
Amundsen, okay, who's the Executive Director of Kennebunk Valley Council of Governments. Hello, Ula, thanks for joining us. During our discussion, he did agree to forego any additional charge for KVCOG helping the town amend its commercial development review ordinance. We talked about how we can make amending the CDRO an efficient endeavor for the COG and for the planning board. He's planning to speak with us over the services that the town has used over the last 5 years. So the town pays dues to KVCOG to be a member, and this year's dues were $7,589. That figure will stay the same for 2022. So services they allow us to tap into are professional land planning, joint purchasing, things like road, solid road posting signs, culverts, community planning. KVCOG assisted us in drafting a comprehensive plan, which will need to be updated in 2024. Household hazardous waste events, textile recycling and other solid waste support, and GIS systems and mapping. We've talked with KVCOG to assist with geographic information system mapping to determine how close we are to the goal of keeping 60% of Belgrade undeveloped, and grant opportunities. Influence legislation that could impact its membership and address the shared issues of concern. Currently, the COG has a task force working on a plan for ensuring an adequate number of code enforcement officers across the region. We need one. The collaboration is also expanded by network of managers whom I can contact with questions and for advice. All right, Willow, the floor is yours.
Great. Well, thank you for inviting me this evening. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Terrific. So again, Belgrade has been a longtime member of KVCOG, and we appreciate your membership. And we do provide a variety of planning services, as well as doing things like hosting household hazardous waste days, collecting hazardous waste, doing Department of Transportation planning for the municipality as well. And again, I come from kind of a consulting background, and again, one of the things we kind of ran into with the subdivision ordinance kind of issue was just a very modest project kind of turning into a larger project than I think everyone expected. And so when faced with another proposal, we just wanted to make sure that everyone was on board with kind of that, you know, these are services that at some juncture we have to charge for. And so that one particular planning project basically used about close to 90 hours, you know, worth of time, which pretty much uses up most of your kind of member dues just for that one particular task. But in working with Anthony, I think we've come to a good workaround in how to work with the planning board to handle your issues without kind of further cost escalations, and I'm satisfied with that. So again, you know, that's the process that we're going to kind of go forward, you know, on in terms of approaching this. And I'm happy to answer kind of any questions that people have about KVCOG and membership and projects that we've done and what you want to work on in the future in terms of the coming year.
All right, who wants in?
I have a question. Hi, Ola, how are you?
Hello, Barbara.
If the work on the ordinances that we've been talking about for the coming year will take up most of what would be our allocation of services, can we still go to you for things like, one of the things I'm always interested in is, any sort of grant assistance that we might need. We haven't had any as yet, I don't think, but, does that limit us in terms of additional services for the coming year?
Yeah, no, in terms of, the way KV works is it isn't like every town has a discrete bank account and we kind of monitor exactly where everyone is. We have a notional sense of when communities are kind of really tapping and using our services, to a great degree. And so, just like, you have, services that you provide to your residents, and not everyone takes advantage of those services. For example, not everyone's calling the fire department to take advantage of that. The same thing is true at COG. So some years, some municipalities use more than others. And so it tends to balance out over time. But we wanted to basically make sure on this particular case that we didn't run into kind of cost overruns. So, we also have a variety of different grants that are independent of our member services. So for example, our transportation planning that we provide to our towns, where we can do traffic studies, and we do ADA compliance work with your sidewalks. All of that's handled on a separate contract from member services. So like there are circumstances, and same thing with economic development. We have different grants that handle that. So some things draw from member services and some things draw from other grants. So, the answer is, in many cases, it depends, but in economic development, we do have other grants to handle some of that work. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Does anyone else have any questions for KV Cog?
Dan had a question he asked me today to ask when he wanted that report done. He wanted to see how much it was costing per year. Go back a few years to see what the costs were. Something you have with you at this time, by any chance?
In terms of, the member dues, I have, it's basically been very, very stable around 7,600, 7,500 per year. We haven't had a cost increase for member dues in 5 years. In terms of that, I will say that, with the census, the new census figures out, probably next year, because we have new population figures and how membership is calculated, that will be different for some towns because towns have different population than they did in 2010. And also the valuation changes every year. So sometimes you'll notice fluctuations, but it's more due to the formula that we use to sort of make the member dues kind of equal in that way. And again, the list which I provided to Anthony is more the list of the projects that we've done. And some of those, again, draw from member dues, some of them draw from other accounts. We also have a technical assistance grant from the state of Maine to handle some planning efforts, so that time that we can give in member services. So that's also kind of how that is budgeted. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
Thank you.
okay, because I did a quick, well, I guess I just did, well, if I figured 350 hours of technical assistance, and is that if we're talking 2016 to 2021, when I divide out what we pay, so it'd be about 58 hours a year, and I know we exceeded that with the 90 hours this year. We don't always exceed it. So I just worked it out as an average, and that actually comes out to $130 an hour, if we were figuring that 58 hours a year on average. Does that sound about right? Because it shows here like a $90 per hour if you're a member. So
Right, yes. But so again, that's kind of one way of looking at it. We do again have other grant support, so it's not directly a one-to-one kind of dollar ratio, but we try to be aware of that in terms of if one particular project is taking up a lot of time, it basically puts a warning light on us that we need to kind of be aware of that and try to kind of make sure that everyone's on the same page. And, I think in kind of working with the planning board, we're going to be providing templates to them and having them, do a little bit more of the work as opposed to us kind of going to every meeting and kind of being involved with every edit. And I think that's going to be a better structure for work. So having a good scope of work is all about kind of good project management. It's good for the client, you, and it's good for us, so that we all have kind of a shared expectations of what you want us to do and what we're able to do. So I think we're going to have that with this new effort, so that you're using our time wisely, and that we're then able to kind of do more for you over more projects.
And the 350 hours of technical assistance, that doesn't include some of the general services like the hazardous waste disposal and the joint purchasing of the road salt and those sorts of things.
Right, that all comes out of this, all that comes out of member services. So that's all out of the same pot of funds.
Yeah. Now, one of the questions that was raised at the last meeting was if the 90 hours that was spent on the last project that you worked on with the town, if part of that was because there was a shift in your personnel partway through and the second person picking up had to then be brought up to speed. So I think for members of the planning board that maybe the 90 hours wouldn't have been 90 hours if there wasn't that shift in the middle. That was not a fault of Belgrade, but they wanted to be sure that if something like that happens in the future, that we don't feel that same kind of like, I guess that they're over dipping or whatever. And do you feel like that's legitimate or?
I think it's partially true. I mean, every business has staff turnover, and that's something that is part of the cost of doing business. And with any particular venture. And so that's anytime you're running a business, you're going to have to deal with staff turnover, and clients will also have to deal with that as well. So I do think that contributes to that, but I don't think that's the driving kind of factor for those sorts of hours. And I think, again, one of the things that we do is we also provide planning services for towns like Madison and Skowhegan. And, those communities have kind of made the effort that they need a planner to basically be staffing, their planning board, because they have more work than technical assistance can provide. And, I do think that, we are in a bit of a building boom. There's a lot of complexity, with these rules. And again, I think that that's also part of the trend, is that these planning boards across our service territory and even the most rural communities are overwhelmed with solar farm proposals, with other types of proposals that they have very little experience in. And, all of that is placing strains on kind of technical support from kind of planners. So I think that's kind of more where this is coming from as far as this kind of trend in terms of an uptick and things like that. So, we are in the process of hiring another planner, and, that's true. And, that person will have a certain learning curve, that's going to be part of it. But I don't think that was a large part of the hours that were billed in that particular circumstance. But I think, again, getting more, having more of the planning board do some of their work internally before kind of turning to us for advice, would be probably wise. If you hired a legal firm like Verrill Dana to vet your ordinances due to the billing hours and billable rates that lawyers would charge, I think everyone would be very wise and prudent about how they use that expert time. And so I think the same is true with any kind of technical expert that you bring in, is kind of using that time prudently in that way. Does that make sense?
It does, but do you feel like Belgrade has not been using your time wisely? because I guess, where I'm coming out from this is, I've been doing this since 2005. And I've seen where we fought the town to keep the agreement with KV Cog. And I feel like it was probably about 10 years ago where it almost needed to be justified while we were maintaining our membership. And what was KV Cog doing for the town in exchange for that? So I appreciate, being able to see, some of what KV Cog has helped us with over the last 5 years, because that gives us a leg to stand on. But I also, if you feel like we're not doing our part, then we need to be clear with what the direction is for Belgrade, because I also don't want for the planning board, who a chunk of them have full-time jobs and they're doing this on the side, to feel like they have to put in more volunteer hours before they can reach out to the Council of Governments that they use for guidance. So I guess I need to know for us what the balance is, because there's a lot on their plates already. So if you feel like they're not doing due diligence, is there something that the town office should be assisting with prior to that? Like, I just want to make sure that everybody knows what's expected of them, when they can reach out, and not to feel like there's the possibility of being monetarily penalized if they need more assistance than other towns do.
Right, and I would say for things like the ordinance stuff, in general ballpark rules of technical assistance is anywhere from say 10 to 15 hours, like per project, something along those lines. And when it starts to go kind of more than that, then it starts to kind of creep into playing the role of being the planner for the planning board in terms of that, or one project taking up hours that might be better used for kind of some of the other town priorities in terms of, that you have in terms of looking for technical assistance. And so these are kind of guideposts. And, again, it kind of was alarming to us on this particular project that there were just multiple revisions, kind of this. And again, I always find, that billable rates are a good form of discipline in terms of that. And, again, people value what they pay for. And, again, if everyone is on kind of has a fair understanding of kind of what their scope of work is and how many times they can do a particular draft, I think that that's kind of a healthy thing. When I do consulting, we have a set number of drafts that clients can review. It's not 12 different iterations. It's you get 2 bites at the apple, and then we have to make an agreement that we're kind of done with the revision, and that wasn't happening here. And so
That expectation spelled out ahead of time?
what's that?
Was that expectation laid out ahead of time? Like, did anybody say, we're here to assist you with this. Let's plan for a review in 1 month. Let's plan for a review in 2 months. And in the meantime, you need to clean up whatever you need to clean up before we get to that next meeting.
Right. No, that's that, again, in terms of the individual projects, that was not how this project evolved. And again, we try to be kind of customer focused in that way. And that's why we're coming back, to say that was not the best practice in terms of how that evolved. And that we kind of need some stopping points. And that's certainly part of that is on us to communicate, with the client in terms of how many reviews in a particular project is a good number. And certainly that's something that we can do in terms of improving our own inside game and communicating those expectations to the planning board of how many reviews go into a technical assistance kind of project, so to speak.
Yeah, because I feel like they can't meet the expectation if they don't know what it is. So Thank you.
I can weigh on that. I think, Melanie, at least from my perspective, I think we both, the COG and we learned sort of a lesson from all this, is that we just need to be mindful to work as efficiently as possible from the get-go. And, you know, one of the things I appreciate about ULA and his staff and the COG as a whole is anytime I have needed to tap, they've always been super, super helpful. And I also think that the COG is very forward-looking and how they can best serve their members. And I think I mentioned during one of our previous meetings, they realigned their schedule for how they bid out road salt at our request so that we could have an apples to apples comparison at the same time of what the DOT was charging versus what the COG was charging. And right now they're working on the code enforcement issue because they realize that's something that their membership, that's a need of the membership. And they were also developing a guide for towns on recreational and medicinal marijuana, because that's such a confusing landscape. And at some point we may need that sort of resource. So, I just think that they provided us the opportunity to work in collaboration, not just with the COG, but with their other members. And that serves us well, just on a year-to-year basis.
Mhm. And it also seems that it was sort of implying, comparing us to other towns of Madison and Skowhegan that have planners on staff, that if Belgrade continues to grow at a certain rate or grows faster than it is now, or, we may need to look at some point about having a professional planner who we would have access to outside of KVCOG.
Outside of KVCOG, or are you saying that the planner contracts with Madison and Skowhegan that works?
Yeah, KVCOG
Yeah.
provides the planning services for Madison and Skowhegan, so we staff those planning boards, but, and so
Okay.
that means we handle all of the planning issues for those planning boards. And again, I do think, with the development trends that are happening, more communities are basically kind of running into that kind of threshold, particularly also with a code enforcement officer issue, which is also another professional who staffs the planning boards. And so if you're down without either of those positions, you're kind of in a big hole in the planning board, who are volunteers, as you pointed out. They're kind of left with a lot of work on their hands, which is probably not realistic for in some places. So that's a tension. So again, I think that we have a good methodology going forward. I think certainly it was, as Anthony pointed out, a good lesson for us, and certainly we can tighten up how we kind of manage things with these technical assistances so that we give people a preliminary budget in terms of hours and let people know when they're kind of bumping up against that, as opposed to kind of continuing to kind of burn it along, hoping that it gets resolved, et cetera. So I think, like many things, clear communication is always good. And again, I think Charles, when he was doing this work, his best of intentions were to try to resolve this and be as customer focused as possible. And eventually, the ordinances got, completed and got to a good place, but it did take a long time. And we just want to be careful about that and all learn those lessons so that, everyone has their eyes open in terms of when we do these things.
And just to give you some context, I spoke very recently with the Madison town manager. He mentioned about the fact that they contract with the COG for planning services. Madison budgets $10,000 a year for that service.
So $10,000 a year outside of the membership dues?
Correct.
So
Correct.
$20,000 a year.
Well, I don't know what Madison's membership dues are, but outside of their membership, then they contract additionally with the COG for up to $10,000 worth of planning services.
Just different for COG to staff their planning board.
Correct.
Okay.
Is it staffing their planning board, or is it having a planner who's there to assist the planning board?
I believe it's staffing the planning board. We provide, all the planning support that the planning boards in Skowhegan and Madison need in terms of that sort of stuff from the planning perspective.
So what happens, Melanie, is if the town of Madison receives a permit application, let's say it's the shoreland zoning application, then that goes to the planner. The planner reviews that, makes sure everything is in order, then presents that to the planning board for them to engage in their discussion and decision.
So essentially, the planner does the checklist to make sure the application is complete. The planning board?
Yeah, and then and I would assume makes a recommendation to the planning board about, yes, this meets all the standards under the ordinance, or here's where it's falling short.
So essentially what we're asking of our potential code enforcement officer.
Potentially, but of course, a planner has a more specific expertise when it comes to those sort of matters.
Bruce?
Now, hearing all this, maybe it's something as a board, you guys may want to get a quote on. Maybe this will save us thousands of dollars of litigation down the road. If some of that litigation is because certain things, planning, I'm not sure permanent, because some of the stuff isn't out in the air about what some of the stuff is about, that we have a lot of legal litigation going on right now. Having a planner, would that save the town attorney fees and litigation if we had a planner on the planning board? And it will save, in my eyes, it would save, time on the code enforcement side too.
Right.
Yeah, definitely something we could look into.
I will say that in Charles's opinion, the planning board that Belgrade had is excellent, and the work that was done on the ordinance is top shelf. And so you have now a very good ordinance, an excellent ordinance, that should, survive any kind of legal challenges and things of that nature. So it's a good group to work with. And I know that Charles enjoyed working, on that project. So it's, again, I think, we just want to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page. And again, we'll do a better job of kind of when we do technical assistance projects, speccing out some initial limits and having more check-in and more communication. And that's certainly some of it. And again, some more stewardship in terms of when new employees come in to kind of make sure that there isn't as much of a learning curve or that learning curve isn't imposed on the community. But again, I do think there are some kind of bigger issues also just that, all towns are wrestling with now. And that's part of the part of what's going on too.
All right, so I'll keep fighting to keep you, okay? All right, does anyone else have anything else? All right, seeing none. We'll move on to new business. Thank you. And we appreciate you making the decision not to charge us extra right now.
No problem. Have a good evenings. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you. All right, next up, we have the consideration of committee assignments. So I will take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Did you second that, Ricky?
Yes, I did.
Let's move, but it was so fast, then it was muted again. All right, so that item is moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Yes.
Barbara, Ricky, Melanie. Okay, 3, 4, 1 absent. And the first and only is Betty Weaver, who, it's not a reapplication, so. So Betty is here and she would like to be appointed to the Senior Resource Committee. Welcome. Thank you. And do you want to give any reasoning why you would like to be part of this?
Well, because I'm a senior, number one, and I'm concerned with, I want to stay in this community. We just built another house up in Belgrade. We were living in Rome before. And my plan is to go out feet first. So I want to live here as long as I can. I have a lot of senior friends that are interested in what happens to the seniors, and what I know one of the things they want is maybe some sort of a facility where they can live out their lives. Now I know that's a long ways from there, but I just want to get on the committee and see what we can do to help the seniors.
Does anybody have any questions?
Thank you for your willingness to serve.
All right, seeing none, look, so easy, not even too hard of a seat. All right, I'll make a motion that we approve Betty Weaver as a member of the Senior Resource Committee.
Second,
Seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ricky?
Yes,
Barbara?
yes,
3 yeses, 1 absent. Welcome aboard.
Thank you.
Now, will she need to swing by and see Mary sometime to get sworn in?
Yeah, so at your convenience, Betty, just come by the town office and we'll issue your oath of office to you.
You get your official badge. Just kidding.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
You don't mind if I leave now, do you?
No, we are really fun, but if you don't want to hang out, that's okay.
I'm sure you are.
it only gets better.
She's like, sure, I'll zoom in from home. All right, next up, we have the consideration of basket bingo applications from the Belgrade Central School PTO.
make that motion.
Yeah, there's the second one on here too. but
Yeah,
we'll
it's
take
for the
PTO
Rotary
one
Club of
first.
Augusta.
Yes. All right, so what'd you say, Ricky?
The motion, we open that.
All right, moved in. Second.
Second.
All right, moved and seconded. All those in favor? Thank you, Barbara.
Yes.
Melanie, yes. All right, so basket bingo application from the Belgrade Central School PTO is first up.
I'll make that motion, we accept it.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Is there any more discussion on this one?
No.
All right, seeing none. All those in favor? Ricky?
Yes,
yes,
All right, 3 yeses. 1 absent. All right, next up, we have a basket bingo application for the Rotary Club of Augusta. The reason why they do these two together is that they share the borrowing of the bingo set from the Belgrade Fire Department. So they do it together because they found it's a better fundraiser if they did it all together.
I'll make that motion.
second,
Seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky?
Yes,
Barbara?
yes,
Melanie? Yes. 3 yeses, 1 absent. All right, next we have a discussion of the consideration of the Recreation Director's job description. I'll take a motion. And a second.
second,
Second. All right, all those in favor? Ricky?
yes, yep.
It's so redundant. All right, so the chair of the Board of Parks and Recreation and Anthony worked on the rec director's job description. We also may want to make sure that Linda re-apps her application because I
Okay.
think she's technically
Okay,
hasn't been reappointed for that. All right, so that is open. Anybody? Everyone have a chance to look through it.
yes, I think it's clear.
Rick, did you have any questions on it?
No, it was just a lot of changing the, and that's fine.
Well, and so I guess under nature of work, one of the things that I thought is that it should be selected by the appointment committee, approved by the select board, then hired by the town manager. Does that process seem appropriate?
that suits me just fine.
It's
It's just a matter of rearranging. those.
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of thinking, and then that's would kind of read the way it goes. Like you have a thought there.
Yeah, I think Melanie. I think, well, this is the way it was worded originally. I think under the law, the state statute that governs a town manager form of government. I think this is correct, that the town manager hires and then the select board sort of ratifies that by appointing.
But the selection is first. It's selected by the appointed.
Yeah,
First, the committee selects their candidate, then you hire.
and at least with the library director, what we did was the committee agreed that it was the town manager's hire, but with input from that committee. And unfortunately, in that instance, the choice was unanimous among everyone who participated in that interview panel. And if you want me to, I could go and snatch that law real quick and see exactly how it's read, but I was reviewing that recently. It does seem to me that it was the purview of the town manager to appoint department heads or select maybe department heads, and then for the select board to appoint them.
Yeah, I have it here. It says appoint department heads shall appoint subject to confirmation by the selectmen, supervise and control the heads of departments under the control of the selectmen when the department is not headed by the town manager.
So maybe if we want to follow the law, maybe it should say selected by the town manager with input from appointed committee, confirmed by the select board. Was that the language, Barbara?
Shall appoint subject to confirmation. So the town manager appoints with input from the committee.
Yeah.
And then the selectmen confirm subject to confirmation by the selectmen. Yeah, so I think that would be fine. So rather than hired, appointed by the town manager, appointed by town manager with input from the selection committee. But then, oh yeah, what do we call that committee? Hiring?
We could say interview panel or
Interview panel.
Yeah, let's call it the interview panel.
Hmm?
The interview panel.
Interview panel, subject to confirmation by the select persons or select board.
I feel like there's a lot of changes. So I don't know that I didn't read through it again right before the meeting, so I do apologize.
and I
And is there a reason why the rec director, like we're taking out, are we taking out things like the work involves coordinating the work of staff and volunteers? So are we taking out maintaining program and financial records?
okay, so point me to which page you're on.
So page 1, 2, 3 lines down.
Okay.
No, that's maintaining program and financial records.
Well, I'm trying to figure out, I guess maybe I'm not fully understanding. Are we adding the financial or are we taking?
Yes, no, that's added. Anything that's being taken out has the line through it. Look at a few lines down, supervision is exercised over,
Yeah,
and then that's taken out and replaced with something else. Right, so anything that's underlined
That's correct.
is
The only-
adding, and
that's
anything
right.
that has a strike through it is being deleted. It's probably in red, right? The changes are
That's
probably all in
Well,
red.
so my changes are in red and Linda's changes were in blue.
Oh,
But the changes, all of the changes that you see here were recommended by the Board of Parks and Recreation. And to be fair, some of my changes here, I did sort of on the fly on my computer while I was talking with Linda about, as we were sort of comparing drafts.
I like the fact that we specify on page 4, coordinating town programs with other area activities and agencies. And then specify some of who those are, just to serve as a good reminder that there are areas in town to coordinate with.
What is a flex schedule work week?
So that means that, because obviously the recreation director attends programming that may occur after hours. And so let's say that person works 10 hours one day, then the following day, he or she may work 6 hours to make up for those additional 2 hours work, depending upon, again, what's going on. So it's just not a scheduled 8 to 5 job like you might have here at the town office as a clerk. It's the schedule is fluctuates depending upon what's going on and what the needs are at that time.
And so if someone works overtime, that's based on the 40-hour week,
That's correct.
not on a day.
That's
So the
correct.
flex time is that they would work 10 hours one day, 6 hours the next day, but, they
Yeah.
wouldn't have overtime unless it's more than 40 hours a week.
That's right. And that reflects federal law. In order to qualify for overtime, or in our case, comp time, you have to physically be at work for more than 40 hours a week.
So, because my understanding was that someone with a salaried position had comp time coming to them. How do they have comp time if they're a salaried position?
This is not a salary position, it's an hourly position. So the only salary,
Well, it looks like it's being changed now to an hourly position.
and this is something that Linda and I talked about. It was Linda's understanding, I think this draft goes back to perhaps 2003, that at one time this was a salary position. When I arrived, the recreation director was being paid like all the other employees on an hourly basis. I'm the only salaried employee right now in the organization.
I feel like we should go back and look at that because I'm pretty sure Valencia was salaried and I was pretty sure
Well-
that when Lily was hired, it was a salaried
And
position.
again, that's what Linda said was the case, but when I arrived, I didn't know any better, and the recreation director was being paid on an hourly basis. Now, I actually prefer that because I'm fine with myself being a salaried employee. I'm the highest paid employee in the organization. The recreation director, is not. And I would fear that if that person were a salaried employee, they could very easily be abused by being required to work more than 40 hours on an ongoing, consistent basis. And so, none of our other employees are like that. They're all work essentially a 40-hour week. And if they work, in addition to that, they get compensated with comp time at a rate of time and a half. And because the recreation director has, especially during the summertime, so many events going on, I would just be concerned that that person would be consistently working 50, 60 hours in a week and never being compensated for that in any form or fashion.
I know my daughter works for a corporate company and she's salary, but if she works over 40 hours a week, she still gets comp time to use at a later date. So salary could work. They'd have to, you'd have to keep track. They still have to do a time card. So okay, we're doing 10 hours today, 8 hours tomorrow, and 8 hours the rest of the week. So at the end of the week, I have 2 hours comp time. I do agree with Anthony. It's hard because unfortunately we have one entity in town that ends up with a lot of comp time in a year because he's required in the wintertime to plow all the facilities. So it adds up. So I don't know what the even is. I guess one of my concerns is I understand all the programming, but are we gonna still have the building open from a certain time of day to a certain time of day every day? Or because we have programming, it goes from 4 o'clock in the afternoon to 8 o'clock at night. Now we're not gonna be open X amount of, I guess that's my question.
No, the center would continue to have set hours during the day. And so it's just a matter of staffing those hours, you know, and that's one of the responsibilities of the recreation director is to schedule the staff in such a way that all those hours are covered.
I mean, I think it makes sense if all the other department heads are hourly for the recreation director also to be hourly rather than salaried.
Yeah, I mean, Bruce pretty much nailed it. The facility maintenance director and the recreation director are the two positions that are most likely, other than the town manager, to work more than 40 hours in a week on a, you know, on a seasonal basis. I'll put it that way.
One in the winter and one in the summer.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, fire and rescue you can't control. If we have a big structure fire, that person's gonna end up in overtime.
Right.
Regardless.
Yeah.
Rick, do you have any thoughts here? I mean, I feel like this is a little more than a review. This is a rewrite.
Yeah. You know, as the rec committee looked at it besides just Linda, we want to make sure everybody's on board with this. Yeah, and there's a lot of changes in it.
And when was this brought before the board?
2013.
No, I mean, when was it approved by the Board of Parks and Recreation?
So it was at their last meeting, which
Oh, sorry.
was last week.
Okay, last week.
And I gotta, I didn't hear a little bit on, salary. That's what happened to me when I worked for the school district, because I was one that put a lot of hours in. And they didn't want to get in trouble by not paying me by the hour. So they put me on salary, and what they do with that, they give you some other incentives to take place of the money part of it. So there is ways out around this.
So are you comfortable, Ricky, switching from, because I feel like we started with a salary position because every other community that has a recreation director was a salary position. And I think that's why we started that when we did. Do you have a problem with it going to hourly?
But it must have changed during Denny if Anthony inherited it as a salary, as an hourly position.
Well, it feels like somebody changed it, but not necessarily approved to change it.
Right.
Well, what I think what Linda said to me was that at a certain point, the way the time card was being processed, that it went to hour. Now, whether that occurred during Denny or one of his predecessors, I don't know. But I will say that I was comfortable with the way that it has worked the last 2 years and didn't see that being an issue. And because the recreation director works more time in the summertime, I think it's fair to have some comp time where that person can take some time off after summer camp's over.
A busy summer.
It must be kind of hard to figure it though from last year because of that there was nobody there. There's
Right.
nothing going on.
So how do we budget that for a normal year?
Well, it's an indirect cost. I mean, it's not a direct financial cost, the comp time. It's a matter of scheduling your staff in such a way. So if the recreation director is taking comp time and you have someone else there at the recreation center during those times, and you know, it's going to be a lesser paid employee than what the recreation director is, because it's going to be a part-time employee.
I think it's fine. I read this over a couple of times and I don't see anything that's really.
So can I ask, what are we paying hourly now? Because I don't think we ever understood we were paying hourly.
So it was a rate of somewhere between $16, $17 an hour.
And what are we proposing at this point?
15 to 20, depending upon experience and credentials.
Well, 600 a week if we pay 15, but I also kind of feel like, when we had, folks who don't want to take a part-time position at the transfer station, if they can't start at $20 an hour. So I'm a little bit hesitant with going from salary to hourly consistently here to feel whether or not we're going to be able to hire someone. So if we say $600 times 52, that's 31,000 a year.
But let's say that we hire someone with a college degree, maybe with some experience, maybe they have some sort of certification under their belt, and I would say that we're going to want to pay that person more than that.
Right, well, that's what I'm trying to figure out is how we budget it.
How much is budgeted right now for that position?
Oh, I'd have to go back and look, but I mean, it was based upon what the recreation director is making, factoring in, some sort of a merit raise. And so, but are you concerned about 2022 or 2021? No, just from a financial
Well, I'm
standpoint.
thinking just trying to move forward with it. Like, do we think we're gonna have applicants if we say Town of Belgrade is hiring a recreation director and it's an hourly position and we're paying $16 an hour? And we require that you have a bachelor's degree, that you're CPR certified, that you have experience working with children, that you can work with folks of all ages, that you have all of these things. I think to me, it almost looks a little bit better when you say $20 an hour is 41.6, I think it was.
Right.
So if you say a salary of X, Y, and Z, and out of the salary, you're required to work 40 hours a week, flexible, blah, 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 within that salary position, but almost like if somebody sees the bottom line, if that's more enticing than,
Well, so, and this is just how I prefer to operate, but if we interview all, the candidates, we find one that we like, I go to that person and I'm not going to say, we're going to pay you an hourly rate of blah, blah, blah. We're going to pay you X number of dollars per year, but that's going to be based upon that hourly rate. Because I just think that that's easier for someone to wrap their head around. They don't have to do the math of what does a $20 hourly rate, what does that amount to?
And my other concern is that if you guys do go back to salary, if they do work over 40 hours a week, you guys as a board have got to agree that they're gonna get compensated from one way or the other, either with comp time, or you guys, instead of basing it on a 40-hour week, you base it on a 44 or 45-hour week, and that's how you base your salary throughout the year. That's usually how salary goes. If you're a salary employee, usually you base it on like a 45-hour week. That's how my daughter's corporate company does it, but hers is actually 46 hours a week. So they base it on a 46-hour week. If she works over 46 hours, then she gets comp time.
In my experience, I've been salaried now for 22 years. And I've not earned 1 hour of comp time or overtime since then. I'm a salaried employee. I work as long and as hard as is necessary.
Right, that's how it was for me. Salaried employee work until you get the job done.
That's right. Now that meant that,
But this is for this is for nonprofits, so.
yeah, and which, in some regards we are.
Right.
But now that didn't mean that I was, I could flex my schedule a little bit depending upon what was going on in the needs. But I've worked more than 40 hours for the last 22 years. And to me, that's what being that's the deal you make when you become a salaried employee.
I just know that's how the trend is now for hiring is most salaried people, you know, you're being hired salary, you're hired with not just a 40-hour base 40-hour week, it's based, you know, so somehow, if you do salary, you kind of got to do analysis to find out on average, how many hours a week that rec director works.
Well-
And that's a tough one, you know, but that's how you have to base your salary. At least that's how I was taught.
And as the example that you used, Bruce, it's very much based upon the season.
So it's tough. I mean, hourly is probably the easiest way to go because it's the easiest way to think.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know, I don't know that candidates would be deterred from applying. It's,
If you put a price range like Anthony was saying,
Yeah.
I think you'll get the applicants. The
yeah,
next thing is if you're gonna get, you know, you're gonna say, okay, yeah, I'm willing to hire you for X amount of dollars, and they say, oh, I'm sorry, I want this, you know, and that's where the committee will have to say, I'm sorry, you know,
yeah.
say,
I
no,
mean, you-
this candidate's not for us. or-
Yeah, you negotiate whether you're negotiating $38,000 or $40,000 or an hourly rate, you know, you're
Right.
still negotiating.
And I will say, I am thus far pleased with the applicants that we've got. I think we've got a number of really good quality applicants, much as we did with the library director job. And I think that's mainly a function of really pushing the job out there in some professional groups. And we've got a couple of good candidates from Indeed.com as well. So I think we're going to have a good field of candidates to interview.
Is there anything here where the recreation director comes to a select board meeting? And updates us on programs and,
Well, it does say, pardon me. Yeah, it was fine.
There's something about attending.
Yeah, so under the work week, it says director must attend the annual town meeting, any budget meetings related to recreational facilities or program, and all Board of Parks and Recreation board meetings. So, I mean, we could add in there and select board meetings as requested.
yeah. Want to be left out of knowing what's going on.
Did you guys just do that quarterly?
What's up?
Did you guys just have department head meeting?
Yes, and we've really gotten away from it, and it feels like we're not in the loop, and it's frustrating. That's why I want to be sure there's something moving forward. All right, is there any more discussion on this? All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion to approve the updated recreation director job description.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second it to see where.
Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, Barbara,
Yes.
Ricky?
Is this something we can change at any time?
No. We have to keep it for 8 years. That's how we do things around here. Every 8 years, we bring it back. Was there something stuck in your craw about it, Ricky? Because if there is, it does, I mean, there are a lot of changes in it,
No,
but it's good if we have a job description to give to the applicants.
we got a job description, we had one, but every one we seem to be changing, and I don't know what the reason is.
Well, Rick,
Times change.
yeah, Rick, I'll just say that, as Melanie pointed out, this hasn't been addressed in 8 years, and things change over the course of 8 years. And so I think anytime that we have a job that is open, particularly a director's job, it behooves us to review the job description and ensure that it is up to date and accurate. And I think that's the only thing that Linda and I were trying to do here. There's a lot of red marks in it. Part of that might be because I'm a contrarian grammarian, but I don't know that there are any, differences in that.
I guess I wouldn't feel quite so bad if the rest of the recreation board had seen this, gone over it, but from what Linda says, she doesn't have many people on it anyway, so.
Well, Rick, I mean, Rick, just to be clear, so the Board of Parks and Recreation did review this last week and did recommend its approval.
Yep, if they did, I'll vote for it, I guess. Yes.
Yeah. All right, so we're voting on the update.
Yeah, my vote's no.
Recreation director.
Yeah, my vote's no.
Okay. So Dan says no, Ricky, you said yes?
I did this to get through this. Not, I'm happy with it.
All right, so 3 yes. I'll
Yes,
say yes, so 1,
Yes.
2, 3 yeses, 1 no.
and probably the reason that the library director wasn't redone was because we just approved that in March of 2019. So that was recent enough that we didn't have to redo it for the new position.
All right, next up, we have discussion and consideration of the processing of returnables at the transfer station. Take a motion to open that item. So moved. And a second?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Barbara? Yes. Ricky?
Yes.
Yes, Dan?
Yes.
All right, open for discussion. So the transfer station committee recommends that the transfer station staff mark returnables collected through the recycling center windows as belonging to the town, so that the bottle redeemer can send the town a separate check for its returnables. The redeemer is agreeable to doing this. A second check for the bottles from the 3 nonprofit boxes would continue to be written to Union Church, which divvies the proceeds among the box owners. None of the box owners have expressed an interest in emptying their own boxes and delivering their bottles to a redeemer. So my first thought on this, and the note that I wrote on here, is that everybody signed an agreement for those bottle boxes. And if we are changing the policy, and if we're going to continue to have this policy moving forward, then if they don't want to be responsible for them, they don't get a box. Because I feel like we turned down a box for Jobs for Maine graduates. And you have an agreement there. If you don't want to do it, then put a bottle box up at your own location.
We are still taking care of the boxes, it's just somebody else is taking care of it. The boxes are being emptied on a weekly basis when
Yes.
needed.
Right, these are just returnables that are put in through the window rather than put into
Correct,
the other boxes.
So this would change the ones going in through the window.
correct.
Right.
Right now, because that policy had changed and the town's bottles are being commingled. And then,
It's a large revenue that the town is losing out on at this time. And now COVID things, we've got it, right now, we've got a redeemer that will directly send a check to the town.
and is this tri-pond?
No, they can handle it.
So who's the redeemer?
Raiders,
Yes.
What is it?
Raiders Redemption.
Raiders Redemption?
Yeah.
But we don't have somebody who will come and collect the bottles. Pen rights. Any other pens in this room? I'll pop up. and get them. Carry on.
There is no redeemers picking up balls anymore.
Thank you. I write so many notes down. when I get up to something. All right, so there's no redemption companies that are coming and picking up the bottles.
We've been checking basically almost on a monthly basis. And I know for, my son has been in the same situation trying to find redeemers. It's hard to even find anybody to take a volume of bottles at this time. If none of the redemption centers want to take any volume of bottles.
So the redeemer who we're talking about in the first part of this. How do when the transfer station marks returnables collected through the recycling center windows, then what happens to them? Then the volunteer takes those as well, just separately.
Right.
Okay, but they all go to the same redeemer. It's just that they're marked for the town in one bag or set of bags.
Correct.
And to be divided among the 3 box holders in another.
Right.
Okay,
The box holder is part of it. It has nothing to do, it had nothing to do with us. The volunteer drops them off.
right. But the volunteer would also drop off the ones for the town. Okay.
If a volunteer is willing to do it.
Okay.
Or at the other end, we could do is we could, haul it in our own town truck at, That's the other option. We have our own balls, not.
Right.
Which is just as easy, so if you're going into Home Depot or something, just take them a capital container. I take pickup truckloads at a time, they want to go over.
Not accepting them right now, but. I
They
said
must have, they must have just stopped. 'cause
Yeah, he waited 3 months to get a check. He just got his check. Like last week, for June.
I just go in there, I go in the pickup load and then when they call me up when they're done counting, I go pick it up, they just give me cash.
But the only one right now that's will send us a check, that's agreed to send the check directly to the town office is Raiders.
So is this something that we need to approve?
Rick, you want to weigh in?
And his hand up, you haven't seen.
No, I haven't.
Okay.
Yeah, just, yeah, pickup truckload isn't, or the town trucks wouldn't be able to handle it in the summertime. I just want to throw that out there.
So the town 1-ton truck can't manage taking the
With
bottles?
town bottles.
They would probably have to make 3 or 4 trips a week to handle the volume that comes in the summertime.
Or just the town bottles?
So I guess I
For
don't
just
know
the town bottles, yes.
how this other person's 3/4 ton can take the bottles from all the bottle boxes and the town ones and manage to take that in one trip. But the town wouldn't be able to manage taking just the town bottles?
No. Can you say that again? I'm sorry. It's echoey.
Okay, so I guess I just need clarification, because the volunteer who's doing it now has a 3/4 ton pickup truck with a cab.
Yep.
And they are able to take all of the bottles from the 3 boxes and the towns in one load? Or do they make?
No. There's a trailer, a closed trailer, plus the pickup truck, usually 2 loads from a Wednesday afternoon. And then the same from Saturday. That's with the trailer and the pickup truck.
So I don't know, I guess this is my thought of it. When we decided to allow the bottle boxes at the transfer station, we put parameters around them. They had to come clean their own bottles out once a week. They had to maintain the boxes and they couldn't leave a bunch of trash. So, and everybody signed that agreement and it got a little bit cattywampus with COVID. And so this commingling started. And if we're to the point where the commingling does not need to continue, then my thought is that if the other 2 entities, the other church and the food pantry, do not want to be responsible for coming and cleaning those out, then we need to open that up and other folks can ask to put their bottle boxes there.
I 100% disagree with you, because before COVID, we had companies that were coming in, cleaning the boxes out for these bottle box people, okay? It's not our business to tell the bottle box people that you can't have so-and-so clean your box out. You gotta do it. As long as the box is getting cleaned, maintained, and taken care of, there's no issue with it.
But what that's doing, Bruce, is that is making it that nobody else can have a box there. Because if our whole contract with them says, if you do not maintain your box, you
But
don't
they
get to
are
have a
being
box.
maintained, Melanie.
But they're being maintained by somebody.
It doesn't matter who the entity. I can go maintain the Belgrade Bible Church box and not be a member of Belgrade Bible Church. I'm just doing it as a volunteer. It doesn't matter. But the bottle box that you're talking about, they could have a volunteer from the town of Belgrade, it's not even in their facility or even in anything to do with them, take their bottles in and get them redeemed and send them money. It's no different than having a bottle redeemer come take care of the boxes on their own. You're trying to limit it now to, so say for instance, the food pantry, somebody from the food pantry is gonna have to go there Wednesday and Saturday, empty that box. Instead of a volunteer that's not a member of the food pantry.
No, what I'm saying is the parameters that we had in place that allowed anybody else to get a chance at having a bottle box, we've removed. And we flat out denied one because the boxes that were there were being maintained.
Correct. And they still are being maintained.
So essentially, those three will be there forever and nobody else should ever put in an application for a bottle box.
That's the rule that the board, that's how the board ruled it, yes. I believe, I'd have to go back and read the rules on it. I don't have them in front of me to see how that's read, but. And I don't know if it, I thought it went into, there's more than X amount of applicants, it goes into a lottery. But I can't remember, I don't have the rules in front of me to read.
That's how it used to be, but then we kind of removed that last year. And well, we hadn't done the lottery thing because we hadn't needed more than 3 spaces.
Correct.
But then when you have a fourth one and we just denied them outright, I feel like that's not a fair process.
Right, you're gonna be in the same boat with that, who, if you allow another bottle, people, it's the same boat. It's gonna either be a bottle redemption company when things get back rolling again, that's gonna clean them out and maintain them. It's not gonna be the entities maintaining them. It hasn't been the entities maintaining them for years.
Not since Trafton came in.
Actually, even before Tractors. So it's, you know, it's as long as the bottle boxes are being maintained, cleaned out, taken care of. The people that have the boxes are getting their money one way or the other, that's all that the town should be concerned with. You know, if you're gonna micromanage them boxes like that, then pull them out and let them all go in the window.
We could do that too. But our one time wouldn't be able to handle it.
It's either that, or why don't we just let other entities put bottle boxes, in. Let's move the bottle boxes. Let's put them down back where the Sanders hang and stuff like that and get them other where they are. So they aren't blocking traffic.
I'll probably have down there, people dump stuff in there, but
Oh,
You don't want
I bet they dump stuff up there top too. Hopefully by the time they get down there, they've already emptied out all their trash.
nah, but good trash.
But isn't the question here just separating, what happens to the bottles
We need to
now
separate.
that are put into the town window? Do
They
they just go in with the other ones? So
Correct.
that revenue doesn't come to the town. So the question before us is just
To separate them out.
to separate them
The
out
town
or
gets
just
their money
continue,
back.
so the town gets that revenue, and if the volunteer is willing to take those, fine, if not, then
Correct.
Then the town is still getting a fourth of it. So the town is getting revenue. Am I correct? The town gets cut a check from the Union Church. for
No.
those.
You guys
wanted them-
decided to forego that. You wanted them all commingled and then divided equally among the 3 bottle box owners.
yeah, that's what that says.
So with approximately, we lost out on about $2,000 for this year because of it. That's approximate.
So I have no problem with this if the volunteer wants to continue, wants to separate them out and.
And actually, he's not separating them out. All he's doing is just dumping them at the Redeemer. And the Redeemer takes bags that are marked Belgrade and he'll count them and send the check.
I see.
That's
Okay.
all.
How are we gonna mark them?
Town Belgrade, written on the bags.
So do we have those stickers that we were purchasing for the other bags? If we sticker the bags, does
I
that
think-
make it easier?
I think Ken was just gonna write on it with a Sharpie. You know, big, you know, 'cause we have the big bag, so you can see them plain as day
Yeah.
with a Sharpie on it.
Yeah, I mean, that seems, we don't have to make it, we don't have to make it more complicated than it is.
Right.
Say, let's do this and then let's revisit the other stuff at the transfer station, revisit it.
Well, we can revisit it maybe when the Redeemers are coming back to collect them, if that would change things.
Right now, we're kind of limited until COVID is kind of squashed a little bit,
Yeah, and I think it's,
unfortunately.
and I think it's fair to say to any potential applicants, you know, until the Redeemers are coming back, you know, we're just not gonna make any
I know
changes.
it's two Redeemers that are not taking any right now. They've stopped until further notice. They're so far behind.
Okay.
You know, all the redeemers that I've spoken with, most of them are not gonna go back to picking up. Not only just the labor shortage, but just the cost and insurance, liability insurance for drivers. They're not interested in doing it. I don't even know if it's gonna happen in the future, to be quite honest.
We can wait and see.
So you're making a motion, Barbara?
I'm making a motion that we accept the transfer station committee's recommendation as presented.
I think we need to be more clear for that, that it's gonna be in written minutes. So the transfer station committee's recommendation that the staff mark returnables collected through the recycling windows
As belonging to
as
the town.
belonging to the town.
Still second.
All right, moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Seeing none, Ricky,
Yes, let's get through this.
Barbara,
Yes,
Yes.
all right, 4 yeses. All right, moving on, discussion and consideration of a 2022 town meeting. Motion to open this item, moved and seconded. Voting is open. So direction from the board on whether you intend to have a traditional town meeting in March or place all of the warrant articles on a secret ballot. That decision will drive subsequent decisions regarding ballot deadlines. Town clerk Mary Vogel will be on hand to provide more details and to answer questions. Hi, Mary.
Can you hear me?
We can. You sound all stuffy too.
Oh, I'm terribly stuffed up. But yeah, so I guess it's gonna make a difference on the time frame and the deadline for the warrant articles. If we do have a secret ballot, it's I've got an inquiry into MMA, but everything has been moved back. So there's a 60-day deadline that may have been extended to 90 days prior to the town meeting, that all warrant articles that are secret ballot are finalized at that time. And especially because the subdivision ordinance is considered a land use ordinance of a sort, and that is one of those that would meet the 90-day deadline.
So Mary,
Yes.
if towns that generally have their meetings in March, a March town meeting is pretty prevalent in Maine, 90 days would mean that they have to have their warrant articles done before their budget is finalized at the end of the year.
So that's right. It would back it up into December. And so I reached out to a couple of town clerks that I know, and I've got some conflicting information. So I've sent it off to MMA today. I did not hear back from them. But I do know there is a 60-day definite deadline, which would put it to January 17th. for secret ballot warrant articles.
That seems more manageable than December 17th.
Yeah,
Because we're down, I mean, we're still finalizing stuff.
yeah. But I don't know that for sure because of the one article, the secret ballot for the subdivision is considered a land use article because it's telling people what they can do with their property. So I'm waiting to hear back on that one in particular. I know that the elected officials, that particular for school board and for selectmen is backed up to not 100 days. So it's 60 days and then 40 days I have to have prior to that. After that 60 days, I have to have the nomination papers ready. That'll be early December.
That doesn't even make sense.
No, I know. They made a lot of changes a couple of years ago, but then because of the COVID and the state of emergency, things were allowed to occur that wouldn't normally occur.
And so what are the deadlines if we have an in-person traditional town meeting?
So as far as my understanding is, if it's an in-person, we could take it right up to the end of January, like we used to, even into February, because our public hearing on the secret ballot doesn't have to be until 30 days prior to the election, which would back it up from, I think it's March 18th to February. Let's see, how many days in February this year? February 17th, maybe?
All right. Well, I vote that we have a traditional town meeting.
Thank you.
I'm going for it. Ricky, what are your thoughts?
Nope, I said that before, pudding's in the pie. You had a lot more voters that voted ballot than you ever have at a town meeting. I think secret ballot's the way to go.
Well, we'd still have secret ballot items. And you'd have that referendum vote the day before.
Do it all like we did last year. Same, every article's secret ballot deal, whatever it is, or whatever you want to call it.
I agree with Ricky. I agree that we should have a secret ballot, as we did last year, but have some kind, if people want to have some kind of a, if COVID allows, to have some kind of community supper, some way for people to get together, or even have the get together over the summer outside. I mean, I think that that's an important part of town meeting, is everybody coming together. But I think the voting was so much higher with the secret ballot and the convenience that gives to people. Because in previous years, the only thing that was, there were just 10 or 15 items. It was really just the nonprofit donations that were on the ballot the day before. And the election of officers. There wasn't that much that was on the secret ballot.
Yeah, usually
Pre-COVID.
about 50-50. It's split about 50-50. All rec was on secret ballot, the library was on secret ballot, bunch of the stuff, because then if it failed the following day, we had to vote on
Yeah.
them to keep lights on and maintain buildings, pay salaries up to the time point of town.
But then we decided, I think, because that didn't have to be on secret ballot referendum only that first year.
Right.
Nothing has to be on secret ballot.
Nope, so that would be minimized.
So may I say something? I'm trying to raise my hand here, but it keeps on raising. So while we did have a larger participation from the residents in Belgrade, the participation doesn't mean that we had a number of educated voters either. and that to have an in-person town meeting allows the opportunity for discussion and to provide the reasons why, any increases or what those warrant articles are for. And it gives a better understanding because, we had people that they participated, but were they really educated on the warrant itself? Or were they just going through the motions and voting, yes or no, because they felt that that was, the right thing to do? I don't know. So it's just something that, I think about. I think about, people understanding the reason why. And when we come together, we provide that reason. So.
But if we have 100 to 125 people who come to town meeting and we have, how many people voted last year? 700,
900.
900?
Yeah,
That's a big difference in participation.
that is a big difference in participation, but how many people really understood what they were voting on? And yes, everything did go through. I don't know. Those are just my thoughts. Anyway, that there's something to be said for a traditional town meeting.
Anything else?
Maybe we need to do a more thorough job of educating through the newsletter, have additional public hearings.
Public people don't come.
It'll be the same people.
I mean,
And I bet you won't come.
my biggest thing is,
She's like, after time, I'll come over again.
is town meeting, you can amend it, you can amend an article, you can decrease the amount. That's another thing you do town meeting. The other thing, it was other interest last year, you had the primaries, that made a big difference on voter turnout. If you don't have no interest, I mean, yeah, this year, the big interest will be, if we end up getting it on the ballot, is the land use ordinance. That's gonna be a big draw for the town, And if you guys get I don't know where you're gonna be at with the water, or, water thing, if that's gonna be on the ballot this year or ballot next year, I mean, at this town meeting or next town meeting, but that's on this town meeting, that's gonna be another big ticket item. But I'm in favor of it on the floor, always have been. I'm traditional. I think I don't think this town's ready to step into the big league. I think we need to stay traditional. That's just me.
If you want 100 people to tell you what you're gonna do, go ahead and keep having town meetings, because that's what you get there. And if you want to pass something, you just call your neighbor to get them there. It isn't like everybody's getting a chance to vote, and a lot of people won't stand up at town meeting or raise their hand. You know it, and I know it.
So sorry, Mary, no direction right now. It's 2-2.
So we will have to make a decision soon, and I will bring back what made municipal, the information that they provide to me. The subdivision ordinance, that will automatically be secret ballot. So.
So, this will bring this back at our next meeting, and if you have that information for the municipal. Yeah,
Yeah,
because 90 days and 100 days just seems, it's not even realistic.
Yeah, well, we did do the 100 days last year for the elected officials. So we did do that. We got the nomination papers out. They were a couple days late, but they still met the 100-day deadline.
Last year we voted in July. Right?
No, well, in
2020.
right,
And then we voted again in March of 2021.
right.
All right. Thanks for coming, Mary. See you next time.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so next up, we have discussion and consideration of awarding the Boston Post King. So we'll take a motion to open that item.
So moved.
Seconded, that item is open for discussion. All right, so the policy for determining the oldest citizen in Belgrade. Policy bestows the duty of selecting a recipient to receive the Boston Post cane. And as town clerk, Mary is submitting the name of Arthur Clark, longtime resident from North Belgrade. He has lived in the community since 1953, and he will be 97 years young on October 15th. All of the nominations are to receive a certificate according to the policy. There was one other submission, which was from Ed Ketch Jr. for his father, Ed Ketch Sr., who was 95 on May 27th. In the event that Mr. Clark does not want to accept the cane, it is Mayor's recommendation to honor the nomination of Edward L. Ketch Sr. So I will make a motion that we name Arthur Clark, the Boston Post cane recipient for the town of Belgrade.
Second.
All right, moved in second, and then. All right,
He walks on the
any
wrong
further
road.
discussion?
He probably can use the cane because
Well,
he
we don't
walks,
want-
he
we don't
walks
want him
almost every
using
day
it.
on the road.
Yeah, he doesn't get to keep the cane though, that's the problem.
He has something that he uses for walking.
It's a stand.
Now, is that presented by you?
So the Boston Post cane has historically been done by the town manager, correct, Mary?
So it's usually the town manager and the chair select person. We usually have a little celebration that is separate during the day at a time when the recipient is available to receive it. And so I'm looking into, I'm looking because the policy says that they're supposed to receive lapel pins. I can't find the lapel pins anywhere, and the company that had them actually closed. So I'm still looking for those, but we will do a plaque and a small cake and give the cane in memory just of as part of the award.
That sounds nice.
Yeah, it says the chair of the town of Belgrade Board of Select Persons shall receive the title and present him or her with a plaque and lapel pin.
So we'll set up a time, a date that everybody's available. And is that okay, Melanie?
Yeah, that sounds fabulous.
Okay.
Okay.
Do we have to vote?
We got to vote on this?
We
Yeah.
had a motion and a second on who to award it to, of the discussion part now. Is there any more discussion? All right, seeing none. Ricky?
Yes.
Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. All right, next up, we have the warrant. And let's take a motion to open that item.
So be it.
Moved and seconded. All right, that item is open for discussion. Do you want, I think I have it over here. don't I, Anthony?
Yeah, I do want to mention one thing about the warrant, is there was a $90 charge in here from the MMA for their annual convention registration. That convention didn't happen. And so we had already paid one registration fee. They refunded that. They told us just throw this invoice into the trash. So the total on this warrant will decrease by $90. So it's warrant number 118 in the amount of $584,501.14.
And I just want to follow up, the town historian, I know we withheld that check, it was taken off the warrant a couple of meetings back, has that?
Yeah, we'll make sure it's on the next warrant. If we meant to put it on this one, it's just an oversight, so I'll make a note.
Okay. And any questions on this one? So we have, one of the things I noticed, under general legal services, I thought when I was looking through some budget papers that were left here from the last budget presentation, that I thought how we were doing the kind of the the investigation portion was that the select board special event fund was gonna be used.
Mhm.
And then, I guess the way the split was, it looked different on the budget thing, and I'm trying to figure out exactly how it was worded.
So it's,
Because there should be no money in the select board special events fund at this point.
no, there's not, and in fact, that account is overrun, so it's sort of 6 to 1, half dozen to the others.
Well,
'Cause-
and I think that was it, was seeing that it was overrun, because we shouldn't have overrun it, because we didn't ask for the whole amount to come out of that. We said whatever the remainder is of that.
Well, we can do
should
a
be
journal
applied.
entry, but that just means that the legal services line item under general government will instead be overrun.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then this here, the 8550, says general legal, select person, special events. Is that still more on that same thing?
according to the invoice, yes.
And what is this one from?
It was 2 letters of correspondence between select board members and attorneys.
Oh, me, I didn't send me a letter to anybody.
Let me,
Okay. So this looks like in August. So did you send an email or something? Like, I think, and we're looking for clarification or something. Yeah. Hopefully we're getting to the end of that. Because I guess I don't understand why that was not part of the whole thing, like why this is a separate charge.
I don't know, I'm not aware what the billing cycles are.
Well, I guess we're not either, because it felt like we already paid and paid more than what we thought we were paying. Hang on, just wanna look at something on the calendar.
Do you guys see many more attorney fees between now and year end?
No. As long as everybody stays in their lane.
So all the litigations are at the end at this point, or are we still in litigations?
There is one pending case related to a planning board decision. That a judge, there's been a motion for a summary judgment by a judge, and the judge has not ruled on that.
So we don't know if that's gonna go further on.
Or if it's gonna be in.
Correct. Only reason I'm asking, I'm just asking for budgetary purposes, because we're in the process of budgeting and where, I got my own opinions on it. I feel that I addressed it at the budget meeting. I feel that taxpayers in town need to know what we're spending for tax, what we're spending for attorney fees, and it should be a separate line article, not hidden in the general government. And I think it's time that it comes out. No more as into, guilt my neighbor, I'm costing my neighbor X amount of dollars in taxes because I'm decided I'm gonna do litigation instead of trying to work it out. In years past, things got worked out instead of going litigation.
Melanie, I got a question on the warrant.
Okay, go Ricky.
The last thing on the warrant from Yankee Communication for $300 and some odd dollars. I don't have it right in front of me.
413.69 for a radio.
Was that for a radio for the truck, or was it just to have it installed?
Those were accessories for mounting the radio in the truck, Rick.
So is this like a fire and rescue radio?
No, this is the one time.
Yeah, so what kind of a radio?
Well, and again, this wasn't a radio itself. It's a number of accessories plus the installation. So it's things like an antenna spring, an antenna mount, a bracket, a connector, a fuse tap micro, and then $148 that is the installation.
So is this stuff being approved by someone before it's being requested to be added as an accessory?
No, I mean, I didn't know about this ahead of time. When I saw the invoice, I just assumed that we had a radio in the truck for communication during snowstorms and such.
There's always been a radio in the town truck.
It's the same radio that they've had, I believe, in the other truck. Maybe they had it installed over there. That's what I was just asking. Or it was a new radio.
No, it's not a new radio. It's just the accessories and then the installation of that radio in the truck.
So in other words, they put it in the truck for them. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, I wouldn't classify it as accessory. I would classify it as material needed to install the radio.
Okay.
Because you need an antenna, you need a wire harness. If it couldn't come off the old truck, you gotta replace it.
All right. Okay. Anything else, Rick?
That's all I had. Thank
Anybody else get anything? All right, seeing none, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor, Barbara?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Tim?
Yes.
All right, 4 yeses. Move that one forward, minus that $90. And next up, we have the town manager report.
So we're talk about two things mainly. One is just the cleaning of the Center for All Seasons. Annie is here and she's been helping out over there with our lack of a recreation director. And one of the things that she suggested, and I personally thought it was a good idea, was that we just give the facility a deep clean. And so she asked me about contacting a cleaning service. I said, yeah, let's get a quote. And so the quote I printed out and it's there before you guys. For the deep cleaning, it would be $3,900. Now that's a lot of money, but it would get us a good clean facility. And right now, our facility maintenance budget is through September. So we just passed the 75% of the way through the fiscal year. And our facility maintenance budget is at 65% of its budget. So we're under budget with facility maintenance through this fiscal year. And our recreation budget is only at 56% of the budget for 75% of the fiscal year. So it is something that we could afford. It's just a matter of whether or not you guys want to approve that. In addition to that, because we don't currently have a custodian over there, if we wanted to have a weekly cleaning of the facility, that would be $325 per week for this quote. And Annie, did you say, were you able to get any other quotes, or this was the only one that was able to respond in timely?
The others are not taking on any more plans currently.
Okay.
Bruce?
Who's the company?
Oh,
Advanced one.
Advanced one.
Advanced one cleaning out of water bill.
So I guess I would say, look, clean for $4,000.
A weird amount.
There needs to be more than spot washing of the walls. High level dusting of webs, spot wash the walls as needed. Like we're
So
going right through.
I mean,
that.
it's like I'm giving, I didn't know online. Looks like
Thank
they've done an online thing.
you. So cleaning the ceiling fans and the light, not in the gym. So who would clean those?
I don't think they want to go up that high. That's
You gotta have a
why they don't want to do
but you're gonna be talking more money to do that.
Clean and organize the janitor closet. How would an outside company know what works? How that would work well for folks doing it on a regular basis?
So they did inform me that they would get up to the ceiling fans on the social room, the historical society that is collecting all the dust. The beams, all the cobwebs up high, they would handle that. Our janitor's closet was not kept up to the best it could have been. So everything needs to be pulled out and it kind of needs to be stripped down and scrubbed.
So the deep clean would be a one-time.
Yes.
It would allow us to kind of be able to get on top of things a bit better.
And the machine for the gym floor, is that working?
He's going to look at it, or they're going to look at it and see how, I don't know how to work it, so I couldn't tell you. But he anticipates being able to use it.
And the steam cleaning of the carpets, that would be their own equipment.
If they're doing a complete cleaning, like a spring cleaning or fall cleaning, the price is not a lot. My wife's office building principal association, when I was doing, well, I still clean over there, but once in a while, I'll do a spring or summer cleaning, and I'll wash every wall in the place, do everything, one end to the other, and that's close to what I charge to do all that. But again, I'm washing all the walls.
Right. That's why I'm like, if we're getting it done, then let's do
Yeah, you need
it.
to wash that.
I don't want like spot mod. We can spot
Oh, the little
mod.
dirt there will swipe that spot. So
Right.
everything other than gym walls, I can understand them not doing the gym walls, but anything to do with.
Well, these gym
offices.
walls are, that's where the kids congregate. That's
Right,
where,
but I don't think they're gonna want to do everything up that high. That's the thing, is you're gonna pay a lot more to come in and do that, you're gonna do it on a lift and everything else.
Usually they used to do it. I don't know if they still do. Maybe they used to get a lift once a year to replace ceiling tiles, light bulbs, and all that stuff. I don't know if they still do or don't.
We sometimes do,
Okay.
but we haven't had to replace those in a year because nobody's. done it,
Nobody's
right?
used it.
Right,
right.
and we got the new lighting.
Sure.
If they're gonna wash all of the walls, the social room, the kitchen, the bathrooms, all of that, and just not wash the gym walls, I don't have a problem with the price. But if they're just gonna go in and do some spot cleaning,
Right.
it's too much money.
So I think I'd want that clarified
Okay.
before we.
So if we can get them to agree to wash all the walls, save for the gym at this price, then am I hearing you're agreeable to that?
I don't have a problem with the price, because like I said, I know what I charge to do, basically the same type of thing on a big office /conference center. I can understand them not wanting to do the gym without additional prices. You're gonna have to get a lift. And it's gonna take a lot longer. You're up and you're down, and you're up, and you're down.
Right.
But the place needs it.
Yeah, it does. But my other concern is if we don't have somebody to keep it up after the fact, it's a waste of money.
Yeah, we do need to.
We also don't have that much utilization of it right now. So I hesitate to spend $325 a week.
Yeah, I'm not saying $320 a week. I don't know if you have enough, what you have for employees at the facility right now. With part-time and, with part-time filling in. I don't know, I know I'm in and out of the center all the time. There's times of days that there's not much going on, so staff can be
Maintain.
So-
and it hasn't happened in years past.
So let me ask you a question. then. So at a previous meeting, we talked about how we were going to address custodial needs and just, maybe we should be looking at hiring a full-time custodian to serve all of our facilities. Is that something that you guys are seriously interested in? Is that something we should be building into the budget for 2022? And if we have the financial capacity to hire someone now, should we be looking to do that?
Not at $325 a week.
No. I'm talking about. I'm
I
talking
don't
about.
have any interest in that.
I'm talking about a full-time employee.
I mean, I don't like piecemealing. I don't like having somebody come down and clean this, and somebody clean that. I'd rather have one person that you can oversee, and every once in a while go behind and go, yeah, this isn't cleaned right, fix it.
I mean, at 325 for one day. If it's 325 here for one day a week, you're already paying for an employee. And, you could have somebody, if you're gonna have a janitorial, somebody could do the station.
Yeah, I mean, if it's $325 down there, if, I don't know how much you're gonna pay a week full time,
Right.
but if you divide it up by what, average it out what it really is to go through and do some cleaning, we might be better off thinking about it.
Right.
It wouldn't hurt to go down and at least clean the, the meeting room and the station and wash the floors, and do some stuff down there.
North Bell.
North Belgrade. They wouldn't have to go to every, the other fire stations and clean, but, places that you have meetings that really need to be cleaned, sanitized, kept up, clean the bathrooms. Something worth looking at.
So what are your thoughts here? Do we approve a $4,000 or 30, well, I guess I'd want clarification
Yeah.
before we approve it. I can.
So let's,
Yeah.
So would you consider approving it contingent upon them also cleaning all the walls except for the gym at this price?
I don't have a problem with it because I know it needs it. But again, it has to be kept up after that, so we aren't spending $4,000 a year to go in and have to do
Or every
this all the
6
time.
months.
Well, is it just the interior that we need to worry about, or should we also be having the porches?
Well, Chris is planning on, he's already bought some of the materials. He's going to be sanding and repainting the porches during the fall, once he's done mowing.
Do that, when it starts getting cold. Most stains you can't use after when you're below a certain temperature.
Yeah, 35.
It's gonna be more next
50.
week.
Yeah, say some of them up 50.
Yeah, I can say some of them more than that.
Yeah,
So
So do we want to go ahead and approve the one-time cleaning with clarification about the walls?
I don't have a problem with it if it's in their budget, because it needs to be done. Place is nasty.
The,
I've
Let's
been
do it.
complaining about it for years.
and we can very easily accommodate that in the recreation budget. Dan.
and from which line item?
I have to go through and look. I would say probably contracted services is what we would look at.
What are your thoughts, Rick? Did you hear me, Rick?
No, I'm sorry.
I thought you were really, I thought you were doing some serious thinking, because I said, what are your thoughts? And
I
you were like,
I am thinking about this, you know. I kind of got to agree with Dan. If you think back, every time anything has gone on over there, we've had to complain about the building being dirty. Bathrooms stink. The kitchen was dirty. If this takes care of the problem, I'm fine with it. I did a little bit of math on the $325 a week for cleaning. That's $16,900. You know, if you hire somebody, it's gonna be more than that because you got benefits and stuff including that. So either way, it's gonna cost a lot of money. But I think I'm in favor of, go ahead and clean it.
well, and I want someone to check out the cleaning thing for the gym floor, because I get a sneaking suspicion it's gonna come back and bite us in the hind. Because if nobody has even, somebody should have been maintaining that all along, but if it has not been done and it has not been run for an extended period of time, and they're planning on using that equipment to do that gym floor as part of this, we need to make sure that that works and works the way that it's supposed to.
We use it, you know, I mean, granted, it's been 2 years, but we use it every, you know.
I believe over the summer, Patrick cleaned it up and used it a few times.
Let's approve the cleaning of it, and I need a little time to think on the 1 day a week thing. I'm just not sure that's a good deal.
Yeah, and again, Rick, I mean, if you guys want us to look into hiring a full-time custodian, either this year or budget it into next year, you know, just give us the direction to do that. Or if not, just tell us, don't worry about that, you know, continue to try to find a 25-hour-a-week employee. But I do like Dan's idea about having someone who's, you know, every day of the week is going to be in our facilities cleaning. So it's not a patchwork or a piecemeal approach to.
No question, you're right.
And I think with the continuation of COVID, it's really important that we do that.
And I mean, if we look at that, even if there isn't enough cleaning for 40 hours, you know, they could go down to the rec center with a can of paint and do some touch up here and there. Stuff that our grounds maintenance guy doesn't have time for. You know, we could keep them busy on small projects.
Yeah, I agree, but when you think about the town office, the center, North Belgrade, the East the Lakes Fire Station, I think, you know, that's probably going to get you pretty close to 40 hours a week.
Yeah, I don't think so.
You know?
I think down to the center for all season, if you clean that a couple times a week.
Right.
The Lakes Fire Station, cleaning that meeting room and the bathroom shouldn't be more than a couple hours. And that shouldn't be more really once a week.
Right.
Town office, how often do you clean the town office?
So we used to clean it twice a week.
Okay. And how long was it taking them over here?
2 or 3 hours each time.
Okay, so I mean, so you got 2 or 3 hours twice a week here. And if you go to the transfer, down to the fire station and up to North Belgrade, that shouldn't take more than a couple hours up there. And another hour or 2 there. You know, that's 1 day worth of work. Twice, and maybe not even twice a week. And then you get the community center. So I don't think that's gonna tie up 40, but I think there's other things.
Windows.
There's some other things that you wouldn't do as normal cleaning.
Yeah.
It's good weather, you clean windows, or you do some touch-up painting, or, you know, little things that need to be done. I think you could keep somebody busy enough with 40 hours, but it's just a matter of running the numbers and seeing what's gonna cost.
Okay.
Again, let's approve the cleaning of the building and then think about what to do the rest of it.
Well, approve the cleaning on the contingency that all the walls are washed, save for the gym, no, not spot washing. So is that your motion, Ricky?
Yes, must be.
Moved and seconded. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? All right, seeing none. Barbara?
Yes.
Ricky?
Yes.
Ann?
Yes.
4 yes.
And then just one last thing is we have a candidate that we would really like to interview for code enforcement. And so we need someone from the select board to volunteer to serve on that interview.
I'm nominating Dan.
Who you have on the panel?
Well, we talked about it previously.
Well, a bunch of names have gone around.
Yeah, so there's going to be Peter Rush. There's going to be Mary Vogel,
Okay.
myself, a select board member,
I'd like to see somebody.
and then we thought perhaps Jason Stevens.
I don't think we should be using a town employee.
Okay, well then we'll find a
Contract.
find
I'd rather
another.
have somebody that, I don't care if they do stuff for the town or, but I don't think they should be a physical employee of the town, doing stuff like Jason.
Okay.
But someone who's a contractor.
Someone who's a contractor who has interactions with them. I mean, if the code enforcement officer is gonna be plumbing inspector too, somebody like either Bruce or somebody that,
We don't want groups.
What about Morris?
Who?
I mean, just.
Morris Childs?
People would, but could ask them.
Someone like Tyler Evans, or he's a builder.
Ask Kevin Hawes. He likes to, he'd probably like to do it.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't have any ties really to the town other than being a contractor,
Yeah.
Tara Evans would be another good one.
Yeah, Tyler Evans.
I mean, one of those.
Okay, Hannah,
Yeah, or who'd you say, Paul Hammond?
Paul Hannah.
Yeah. One of those three.
Some kind of a contractor that's,
Okay.
And then who from the select board?
I mean, I'll do it if you want me to, but it's just gonna have to be,
We'll work
I'm
around your
gonna have to
schedule.
work around my schedule. So I know the last week of this month, I'm gonna be over in New Hampshire.
Is there more than one candidate, or is there just one
Um,
candidate?
Right now, we have one candidate, but we have other options.
So are you only going to interview one person, or are you interviewing more? than one?
We're hoping to interview more than one.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Dan. And I'm done.
All right, does anyone have anything else for the public portion of the meeting? Seeing none.
I heard you
Do we need to close the?
taking that sidewalk thing, you want to go back to that?
We didn't table it because we didn't have that. All right, so I'll take a motion to re-enter the select board meeting.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor? Barbara?
Yes.
Dan?
yes.
Great. And Ricky already exited. So, all right, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
Moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Yes.
yes.
1, 2, 3.
So there's lots of things there for you guys to sign.
Yes, oh, and I probably can't sign them with your red pen.
Yeah, let me go get a.
Yeah. I have blue, is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have 2 blue pens.
How's that? Well, this is my favorite one, kind of pen. I keep trying to find them. I try to steal my.
Buy 'em
own
by
when
the
I can.
box.
Do you get them at Staples?
I think so.
Okay, because I think I've looked.
I need
About
pencils.
everywhere.
I'm a big pencil fan. And no matter how many pencils I have, I keep losing pencils. I don't know what happens to them.
I'm gonna sharp pencil too.
The
Looking at
discussion
the-
you guys were talking about, when you were talking about the rec director,